Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. I am Kinsey Grant-Baker for Barchart, and we have a great interview lined up today. So let's jump right in. I'm really excited. So it's no secret, or at least it shouldn't be, successful businesses across all sectors are the ones that know their audiences on a deep level. They understand what motivates that audience, what inspires that audience, and what that audience thinks of them in return. Unlocking those audience insights means tapping into better messaging and more successful relationships and just overall better engagement. But getting those audience insights is not always so simple. Enter RAD Intel. RAD Intel deploys proprietary artificial intelligence to enhance businesses' marketing strategies, identify new or existing ideal customer audiences, devise content strategies, and recommend influencer messaging tailored to the campaign needs of a company, really across platforms. So if we put it really simply, it's identifying new audiences and boosting content ROI, two of which are, big to-do list items for many companies, really in any industry today. Tapping into an interesting and what I think is increasingly impactful part of our modern economy, which is this AI-driven future of marketing. So lucky for all of us here today, we're about to learn all about it from a real expert. I'm excited to welcome our guest, Jeremy Barnett, the CEO of RAD Intel. Jeremy, how's it going? How are you today?
It's wonderful to be here, Kinsey. I appreciate you having us on. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, I'm excited to talk today. Your company is really, really interesting. I was having a lot of fun learning more about it and doing my research here to get prepped for this conversation. But we have a lot to cover. I'm excited to learn more from you about what RAD Intel is doing. But before we get into all of that, we have a lot lined up. I want to start with a little bit of the timing, kind of setting the scene here for everybody who's listening in. I understand there is some news underpinning this conversation. So let's start there before we dig into all the big stuff. Today is the final day that investors can participate in your crowdfunding opportunity at a certain share price. You'll see the ticker up there at the top of this conversation. That's right, Jeremy? Today is the last day for a certain share price?
Yeah, that's right. We have SEC qualified Reg A plus, roughly about 7,000 investors plus or minus. And the share price does change tonight at 11:59 p.m. That's precisely why we're talking, Kinsey.
All right. I love it. I love having a timer, a clock going. There's a certain thing that's going to shift. It's exciting stuff. And like I said, I want to get into all of that. I want to hear more about, the investment opportunity, why crowdfunding, all of that. And we certainly will get to that. But I do think it's important that, now that we've kind of established the stakes, we get into the details of what RAD Intel is doing and why you're doing it. So Jeremy, let's start here. What do you do, and how do you consider that work to be disruptive in your industry? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I think the first thing is the word AI has become so overly used with respect to almost any marketing program, company, or campaign. So, we've been around for over 14 years. The artificial intelligence came to market initially with a company that we acquired in 2021. We had tailored the artificial intelligence towards an industry that we thought needed not only to be disrupted, but specific problems that I had built and sold a previous venture on called Trendy Butler, which is a company in the fashion tech space. Essentially, we're doing exactly what you just said. As a matter of fact, you pitched our company exceptionally well for only having a short period of time to really understand what we're doing. But we're helping Fortune 1000 brands understand the content that's going to mobilize an audience to take action. And we've sort of inversed the way we think about content and creative campaigns, essentially understanding the audiences, the topics, categories, and interests that motivate and mobilize them to take action before any recommendations are made. So if you think about it, on the one hand, there's a bucket. If your creative strategy is wrong, most probably the ROI isn't going to be as optimized as it possibly could be for any big campaign. A lot of times the creative strategy being wrong can also be incredibly detrimental to a brand. We've seen big mistakes with big brands like Anheuser-Busch with Bud Light a couple of years back, made a big mistake. They actually alienated their existing customers, and they alienated other customers that they were looking to attract. So these examples are sort of rampant all over the place. So essentially helping brands make better content and creative decisions is on the first part of the equation. And then the middle part of the equation is who is the personality best suited to amplify that content and speak about that content in front of the audiences you're looking to attract. In other words, who's going to deliver the content in the most impactful manner? That can be an influencer, that could be a celebrity, that could be a UGC content creator. So that's really the third pillar of content creation. The second pillar of content creation. And then the third pillar of content creation is what should the content be? What channel should it go out on? What should it look like? Is it a video? Is it short form? Is it long form? All of the all of the nuanced color palettes associated with the video, what it should feel like, what kind of emotion should it evoke. That's the third part of the content creation strategy, is the actual content itself, what it is. So there's three parts of content creation, and we've created an artificial intelligence that helps brands make better decisions and ultimately deliver a more impactful campaign.
Yeah, it's really compelling stuff. I think it's especially interesting when you put all of this into the context of the modern marketing moment. I was just listening to a podcast earlier this morning that mentioned specifically how brands are trying to really emulate the ways that content creators reach their audiences and speak to their audiences in their own marketing, their own messaging, right? An email newsletter is not just buy this couch or buy this sweater. Now it's, I'm a brand, I've got a person, I've got a voice, I've got a personality. The example is The Real Real, a very well-known consignment site for many people like me have spent many hours on The Real Real, now has a Substack. They've got a newsletter presence that's not just trying to direct people to go buy things on their site. More and more, we're seeing brands try to understand the best ways that they can create content that really resonates with an audience that doesn't feel, like the kind of stale marketing messaging that we might be used to. I'm curious to hear your perspective on the kind of big picture about all of that before we get into some of the details of the kinds of companies you're working with. What do you think about brands trying to create content strategies that feel a little bit more, natural to the online experience for consumers?
Well, authenticity is ultimately what rules the day, especially in the age of inauthenticity, right? So if you think about it, we've had brands come to us, very large brands, with a fully baked out program that is tailored. For example, Roman Health, one of our clients, came to us with a program tailored towards quote unquote older men. We'll say men that are my age, between 45 to 55 years old. And they had this campaign called "He Still Got It," and they had all this money invested into all the different things that were associated with a man who is in his late 40s who wants to kind of feel like he still got it. And the idea was it's these men's vitality products. And when we did our research and we came up with the different audiences and segments and the different motivating messaging pillars that would motivate that audience to take action, the very first thing we realized is their customer wasn't the 45 to 55-year-old man. Their customer was actually the young gun, 28 to 32-year-old, wants an edge, wants a little bit of a pep in his step type guy, goes to the gym early in the morning. And this is a big company, and they've got lots of money invested into understanding who their customers are. The problem is audiences certainly shift as a brand evolves, and there's a real way, the way people look at brands as information gets populated out there into the world of the internet. There's literally trillions and trillions of messages that are put out there on a daily basis. If you think about the amount of content that you see on a daily basis. So the question is what really stops the scroll? What makes you think, oh, I see this, I want to look at it, I want to engage with this brand a little bit more. So everything always starts with authenticity and how you approach the customer you're looking to attract. That's the very first and most important thing. We've also seen it with other clients like Sweetgreen. Sweetgreen, when they launched in between we'll call them in between New York and LA, so the flyover states, and they had a program they brought to us. And initially, it was a program which was going to be some sort of a discounted product offering because they didn't think people in the flyover states were interested in a $25 salad. So a lot of people tease us because we actually told them the $25 salad was 100% acceptable in the flyover states. The problem wasn't the $25 salad issue, which is what they thought it was. The problem was quite simply an awareness issue. So these are the types of things that we uncover. And if you think about the importance of having the right strategy going into anything, it could be marketing, it could be any sort of business deal, it could be anything that you're doing in life. If your strategy at the very beginning is incorrect, you're doomed before you start. So having real unbiased information at the onset of a program is really the pillar of everything we do. It feeds all of the different decisions around the creative strategy. It feeds all of the different decisions around the personalities, content creators, and influencers that you may or may not work with. And it also feeds the type of content that you're going to be putting in front of those potential audiences.
Yeah, really interesting stuff, Jeremy. And when you speak about all of this, these examples that you give are really, I think, illustrative of just what you're doing, the work that you're doing, how interesting it is. For me as a consumer, it's very interesting, but also for people who are potential investors. But I wonder, those three pillars you mentioned at the top of this conversation: better content and better content decisions, the right people delivering that content, and the right channels for that content to exist. Oh, can you hear me? Okay, good. Those three things, I think are applicable to any company in any industry. But I'm curious if there are any categories where you feel like RAD Intel has, a special dominance or has really kind of made a mark. Are there any specific parts of the economy where you feel like you're having that impact most?
I love that question. It's such a good question. Well, we got a lot of traction in toys and gaming. Hasbro is one of our largest clients. We're scaling across a portfolio of brands. We started with 5 pilots over a 2-year time frame. And I can't tell you how hard it is to break into these larger Fortune 1000 ecosystems as an incumbent. So we're scaling with Hasbro right now. We work with a portfolio of brands in the Hasbro family of brands. And as you know, Hasbro is everything from Monopoly to G.I. Joe to Transformers. So that's been an incredible validation point in the learnings that we're able to help them with, not just with respect to product launches, but content and creator campaigns and what it should be. None of that matters unless the actual return on investment is there and it sticks out from the sea of noise associated with the different agencies and products and vendors and everything that they've used prior to RAD. So that's been an incredible validation point. We've built a lot of infrastructure around that. Most recently, we've got a lot of traction in the beauty space. Glossier came on board, Fenty came on board, and Sephora came on board. If you think about the through line, like what does Hasbro and Sephora have in common? Well, the answer is these are brands that have tons of different segmented audiences that care about the brand. Obviously different audiences, but the same rules apply with respect to creative strategy. So what we're seeing is the scalable opportunity for how the creative intelligence can be used in different audience segments. So right now we are a team of less than 40 people. We've really focused on being a technology company first. So when we get a client, we keep a client. They don't go anywhere. And the idea with each client activation is it's used a little bit differently. The technology is used a little bit differently. We've taken a lot of pride in understanding that the word marketing and content, these are really, really big words. They mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So if you think about marketing for a beauty brand versus marketing for a toy company versus marketing for a board game, completely different animals. And then you think about all of the different channels. You've got Facebook, you've got TikTok, you've got blogs, you've got emails, you've got branded content for your website. All of these different things equate to this big marketing ecosystem. So what we're seeing is our technology isn't just being used for creator activations, it's being used to guide activations across the full media mix from top to bottom. It's also being used to guide strategy validation for product launches. So I kind of always go back to this. At the cornerstone of every successful program, at the cornerstone of every successful business is the right strategy. So we really pride ourselves on building a deep infrastructure, and that deep infrastructure is layered with proof points that the person that's using the infrastructure trusts and believe because they intuitively know their brand. So sometimes it's validating a decision, or sometimes it's giving you an aha moment. Oh, we could do this over here with that. One of our clients, Skechers, for example, if you remember a couple of years ago, they ran a very successful commercial during the Super Bowl with Tony Romo and Mr. T. Well, if you think about the amount of investment that commercial required, not just for the airtime, but Tony Romo and Mr. T and all of these things, they had the right strategy coming into the program, but they wanted to make certain that strategy was correct, right? So these are the types of different nuanced ways that our product is being used. The technology itself has a complete workflow infrastructure. Any marketing practitioner for a brand that has a wide breadth of different audiences, whether it's multiple different brands in a portfolio of big brands, or maybe it's multiple different audience segments that care about different variations of the beauty products that are offered, it doesn't matter. The marketing practitioner still is able to keep her pen in the hand. In other words, she's able to go in there, she's able to look at the different things that are associated with her objective for the program, and she's able to make decisions with unbiased data and recommendations to help guide those decisions and ultimately make better content decisions.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, I'm curious to hear how you think tech specifically gives you an edge? You alluded to how layered the marketing industry is from, different vendors and agencies on either side of the equation. I would love to hear a little bit more about how your view of RAD as a tech company first makes that a more competitive offering in the context of how layered this industry really is.
Well, I can tell you so you're peppering me with wonderful questions, and I love it. So for starters, what we've done and built is incredibly hard to do. And the word AI or tech doesn't mean anything unless a customer or a client is able to use it, explain it to their colleagues as to why they should test or work with this new incumbent, and be able to extrapolate real value out of the results of whatever the thing is that they purchase. So that's the most important component. So no one utilizes our product and technology because it's got AI in it. They utilize it because the AI that we built into it is delivering value for the objective they're looking to accomplish. So what we've seen are two different scenarios on two different types of clients. So we've got brand direct clients, and we've already talked a lot about those. Where we're scaling is with some very large media agencies. The largest, well, not the largest, I think the second largest media agency, Omnicom, is an innovation partner of ours, and several agencies within the Omnicom family use our technology. Now that's a hands-on keyboard environment, whereas brands, they come to us for activations, and they'll come to us typically with a test. Typically budgets are anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000. So that kind of puts us into the category of the type of brands that are using us. And then like Hasbro, for example, they scale from there. And then once they really, really get comfortable, they start to do annual contracts, and they're running most of their influencer programs for us for whatever their portfolio of brands might look like. So it's different for different types of use cases. The most important thing is the technology itself is incredibly flexible, but the word tech and the word AI is cautionary because it doesn't mean anything unless somebody can get on their laptop and make a valuable use case out of why they should get rid of whatever else they were doing and start using your thing and learn whatever your thing is, and then be able to explain it to the other people. There's to other people in the organization. There's so many stakeholders at these Fortune 1000 brands that are part of the decision-making process. It's abnormally hard to break in. So it's one of the things that we're really proud of. It's not just building a product, taking it to market, getting product market fit within the framework of the most desirable brands in the world, but doing it in a way with limited infrastructure and resources. And the reason why we've been able to do that is because we've invested heavily into the technology first. So we're not a company that has a big sales arm. We're not a company that has a lot of bells and whistles on the marketing side of the business. We're a company that, if you look at our infrastructure, half of the team are ML engineers, data engineers, and people that are in the artificial intelligence space, specifically working on our product. And one of the things that we've done most recently is we will enroll our most important clients like Hasbro and Omnicom, and now a really big beauty client, which I haven't named here yet, which is next on the equation. And we're actually building with them specific to problems that they have. So what we found is the demands of these companies are significant. But if you have IP as a core and you've taken the time and invested the resources, which is a people resource, which requires money, and you've done that and you have something that's truly valuable, you can really differentiate yourself quite quickly at market.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And Jeremy, I appreciate your approach too, of the idea that, you can slap any buzzword onto a company's description or put it on your landing page. None of that really matters unless you can prove out that it works and that it can have an impact. So I think this is really interesting to hear a little bit more about how that comes to life. It's a good segue too, I think, to speak about the investment opportunity that we mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation. So let's talk about it. Tell me a little bit more about, why pursue the crowdfunding route, and specifically why now? Why does this moment in time make sense for RAD to be pursuing this? Kind of paint the picture for me, if you don't mind.
I'd be happy to. So the first thing is, we do have institutional support. Adobe is an investor. Fidelity Ventures is an investor. A couple local VCs here in Los Angeles, like Expert Dojo, are investors. We also have close to 7,000 investors, which is a wide range of mix. We've got insiders from Google, Amazon, Meta, and now YouTube that are investors. We've got regular accredited investors, and we're just regular people too that investors. It's something we're really, really proud of. We decided to do our first crowdfunding campaign in the middle of the pandemic. And I remember all of the advice that I got going into that was, nobody's going to understand what you guys are doing. Don't do it. It's too complicated. We just bet on ourselves, and we had a successful, very modest raise, a thousand investors, around $1 million back in 2020. And we've continued doing crowdfunding since. It's become a real wonderful instrument from us from top to bottom. It hasn't limited any of the other things that you think or you hear as quote unquote, like, don't do it because of this reason, or VCs aren't going to invest down the road, or you're going to have trouble selling. All of that is falsehood. It's just simply not true. We like the control associated with when we start, when we stop. Having close to 7,000 investors, all of the names that I just told you about from Google, Meta, Amazon, and YouTube all came as a result of the crowdfunding exercise that we did. We've gotten huge clients as a result of it. The power of having 7,000 people fully enrolled into your vision, I don't think you can put. I don't think I can put enough of an emphasis of how valuable that really truly is. And we've really taken the community aspect of this very seriously. I've made myself available to speak to investors. I talk to hundreds and hundreds of investors over the years. I have, I wouldn't call them relationships with people, but I know them. We'll talk every quarter, or like just a quick minute check-in, whatever. We also send probably between 2 to 4 updates a week. We have a lot of news. So we do treat this thing very seriously. We do make certain that we are overly communicative, and being live with a SEC regulated Reg A Plus it's not an easy thing to do. And it's certainly not it's certainly not like a simple process. It took us about a year to get the Reg A Plus live. And that includes, rigorous audits, all sorts of different proof points associated with the SEC. They go through the process and make sure that we're not AI washing, and what we're doing is really not just it's real IP, but we're not just using the word AI as kind of a quote unquote punch point. So all of these things make you stronger as a company, build the infrastructure and muscle associated with financial discipline in order to start acting and behaving like what a real company should be. So we've sort of grown up in this environment, and it's become incredibly valuable for us from top to bottom. We look at our community of investors as one of the most valuable assets that the company has. We've really leaned into it, and it's really fueling this next phase of growth. The next phase of growth, meaning we have a real compelling growth strategy, which we've called AIBO. AIBO stands for AI buyouts. Essentially what we're doing is we're targeting small to medium-sized agencies that are between $5 to $50 million a year in revenue, agencies that are EBITDA positive, agencies that are run by practitioners. And we're taking all of the learnings from the agency partnerships that we have and the brands that we're working with directly. And we're saying, if we can do it here, we can make these small to medium-sized agencies even more profitable. We might as well own them. Why not? And the reason why we're doing that is because it's a quicker road to a bigger number. At the end of the day, the leadership team here, our board here, we're capitalists. We're trying to get to as big of a number as quickly as possible. We take the responsibility of having 7,000 shareholders on our cap table very seriously, and we're really building something here special. So we've been working on our AIBO strategy for about the last 12 months. We have a pipeline of deals that we're looking at, and we're looking to close our first deal in the third quarter of this year. So we're really, really pushing hard on that, and that's going to be our growth. That's going to be our growth strategy moving forward.
Yeah, it's super compelling stuff. I think this is, I appreciate especially your transparency about the vision, the growth, the expectations, and the timing on all of that. It's very interesting. If you were trying to pitch somebody, maybe they're on the fence about whether or not they want to participate in this iteration of crowdfunding, what would be sort of your elevator pitch to this person? We've talked a lot about the vision and where you're going, but I would love to just hear, the quick version, like why should I invest? Why, as a listener, is this something that should be compelling to me?
Well, I think I always go back to the basics. I'm a little bit of an old school CEO when it comes to like why invest into anything. I can think of the reasons why I've invested into other startups before, and it really just boils down to the team. It's something that I'm most proud of. Both my partner and I each have multiple exits under our belt. I've sold my last 3 companies. He's sold his last 4 companies. Our chairman of the board is the former vice chair of Brookfield Asset Management, and another board member has acquired over 230 companies. So you've got the right leadership team in place to make it happen. That's the most important thing from top to bottom. Look, anything can happen. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy market. We've managed to weather the storm through COVID, up markets, down markets, and it's really, when you build a company, it's just not an easy thing to do. It's very hard. So the things, failure happens when you decide to accept failure. So look, this is not my first rodeo, and it's certainly not my co-founder's first rodeo. But if you look at this, we just treat it like what it is. It's a very important moment. It's a personal thing. Money is a very personal thing. I in business, when people say, "Don't worry, it's not personal, it's just business," I think that's a bunch of BS. At the end of the day, it's the fuel that helps our families be comfortable, and it's the fuel that helps the people that are investing's families be comfortable. So we just take it very, very seriously. That's on the one hand from more of a human perspective. From a company perspective, we have traction. We've grown 1,600% since we've launched the company. We have the traction. This year alone, we've more than doubled all of last year's output. And that's a huge, huge number. And aside from all that, there's the financial discipline associated with the company through the SEC qualification requirements that are required for an investor to really feel comfortable. So there's a lot of things that are happening here. And then if you just kind of look at the news and look at the information that we've been putting out to market, I think the most compelling part of this, it's quite obvious the company is exploding right now. We just brought on 3 new brands in the last 5 days, and these are big brands, and those are the 3 beauty brands that I just mentioned to you earlier here in the call. That alongside Hasbro and Omnicom, several agency partnerships, and we have 5 other brands that we've signed that we haven't released news on yet. So we kind of think about our news cycles in a very similar context to the way a publicly traded company thinks about their news cycle. We think the opportunity is massive. We think we're priced in a way that allows shareholders to participate in upside, and we certainly believe very, very heavily in the vision that we're accomplishing right now.
All right. It feels like quite the mic drop moment, Jeremy. I think that, this certainly paints the picture of all that you've been working on and all that's to come ahead as well. My last question for you here before I let you go is just where you see RAD fitting into this larger landscape of, what the future of marketing looks like, what the future of content looks like. How do you expect to be, especially competitive in that landscape as we move into the future?
Well, I think the first thing is to understand the origin. So above and beyond everything, there's a 14-year base of infrastructure, resources, and investment into the core technology that's helping us drive the value that we deliver to customers right now. So that's first and foremost. So we have a commitment to building feature sets, building infrastructure around technology, and commitment to innovation. So I can tell you, I'm obviously on the selling the company side, raising money side, and vision side. That's what I'm responsible for. This thing is impossible without a competent co-founder who's in charge of product and development. So the way the company looks and feels since we acquired, the name of the company, by the way, was Atomic Reach in 2020. It's just completely changed. So having a competent infrastructure around technology and having the people on that side of the business to build the things that are needed that help our clients not only become more successful, but create an even stickier environment with the existing client base that we have. Those things are incredibly important. So if you look at where the market's going, a year ago, a lot of companies were starting to adopt AI. Some of them were a little further down the road. 2 years ago, they were thinking about innovation in AI, and they weren't quite sure where it would go and how it would fit. I could tell you when we engaged with Omnicom, the very first thing they said is, we don't want anything to do with generative AI, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about all these different things, and now today it's totally different. There's AI everywhere. But if you think about it, a lot of it, when you see it, you're like, oh, that looks fake. Oh, that looks like crap. We don't want that, right? So we really pride ourselves on utilizing artificial intelligence to help people make better content decisions and have better strategy. And whatever that strategy is whatever it is. So that's the first thing. So we're doubling down on that infrastructure across the board. The other things that are interesting to us is like the future of these creators and influencers that have their own persona, and being able to make them or help them create more content utilizing their persona in different environments. So that's something that we're also very interested in. Most importantly, the things that we do and build within the infrastructure of our technology, it's not stuff that we just go into a conference room on, we get on a whiteboard and we're like, oh, we think this is going to work and that's going to work. We're collaborating with our biggest clients on what they want to see. Oftentimes we're building for them, and the things that we're building for them are market ready for others. Because the one thing about these large Fortune 1000 type customers is they all kind of have a very similar set of needs. They all care about brand safety. As a matter of fact, on the brand safety side, we talked a little bit about this, and some of the things that can happen to a brand that's not good, by making the wrong decision. So we created this brand safety infrastructure in our technology that we're at market right now with, and it looks at all of the different content that any creator has put out there into the market. Is it provocative? Is it controversial? Are there trademark infringements? Are they working with competitors? And it does it instantaneously. The value of that when you're activating on a campaign, to know that your brand is protected, is like my wife always says, Jeremy, you don't get a cookie for driving to the supermarket and not getting in an accident. But in this context, it's that layer of safety. These are the types of things that we know. Now, that idea came from one of our partners about 9 months ago. We were able to build it out, deploy it, test it, and get it in our clients' hands within 6 months. So that's a really, really powerful thing. That's one of the things that's kind of cool about running an early stage company that's growing, is we can still be very nimble with the things that we do, but we take a lot of the things that we innovate around as direct lines of information from the clients that we work with.
Yeah, it's incredible. I appreciate you sharing all of this with me today, Jeremy. I think there's, certainly a lot that we could continue to dig into, but we'll leave everybody with that for now. Thank you so much for taking the time to tell me more about RAD and your work and this crowdfunding opportunity. It's all super interesting, and I'm just very appreciative of all of the insight.
You're very welcome. And just to make sure we call it out, the share price does change tonight at 11:59 p.m.
Yes.
So I think right now the share price is 55 cents, and the URL for our investor page is invest.radintel.ai.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. I encourage everybody to go check it out. 11:59. Set your alarm. Do it before then, if not.
Thanks, Kinsey.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.